As an INTJ, when do you feel most like yourself?
So I would say usually I feel most like myself when I'm learning something. And I think this is kind of typical probably for a lot of INTJs. You have on the one hand this insatiable curiosity about every different dimension of life. So it could be about finance, about fitness, about relationships, and you can really dive into it real quick. You know, this is, I think, very typical because on the one hand, it's very nice to keep consuming information and then eventually figure out, okay, how can I apply this information? But it also is usually something that you do by yourself. So it usually means reading a lot of books or watching a lot of videos, and maybe you go out with friends to like learn an activity and you go do that. But I would say normally it's a lot about you on your own figuring out how to learn this new topic that you're really into, even though nobody else actually gets why you're really into it maybe. And that can actually be quite frustrating because you're so passionate about this book that you just read or this new thing that you learned, and they just don't get it. That's how you kind of think about it, right? So I would say that's a very important way.
What is your favorite and least favorite part about being your type?
So I would say the favorite part of being an INTJ for me is it kind of feels that there's sort of an algorithm running in the background, and this algorithm is constantly trying to make connections and find the underlying principles or common denominators. And this is actually really nice because it allows you to recognize patterns very easily or much quicker than maybe other types would be able to. And it's also a way for you to distill the essence of things, right? And because you have that, you're very adaptable. If, I would need to go into a completely different field, for example, it would be probably somewhat easy in the sense that I'm able to quickly learn, but I'm also able to recognize the patterns, kind of see how it should be approached. And that's actually very nice in terms of a skill, I think, now and in the future where the world is unpredictable, you need to be adaptable as well. But then what's my least favorite quality is, of course, I don't want to say you're socially unaware, but you can definitely get quite alienated, or you can burn bridges if you're not careful, or you might be completely oblivious to the group social dynamics. So this is definitely something that can be obviously very difficult. I remember when I was younger, I moved to a different place and I never really went about it deliberately as in, I might need to actually work on my social life. The thought almost didn't even occur to me until I was many months into this new place and I realized, okay, it's maybe good for me to go out more and actually meet new people. And on the one hand, it doesn't really bother you that much because it's kind of in the background, but you're good being by yourself or with maybe a couple close friends. But you also know from a higher understanding that, of course, as a human being, it's good to be around others, right? And engage with other points of view and people and be part of a tribe or a group. But you need to be very consciously aware of it. Otherwise, you can be alone in the mountains for a very long time, I would say.
What is something you wish more people knew about your personality type?
I think people have a very, very specific image of an INTJ. We're very cold, we're very distant. But if we have a conversation, you'll hopefully quickly, even if I'm not able to fully communicate it yet, feel that there's a lot of depth and layers to this person, right? And it's not this cold outer shell that people might see. I think we're just generally more reserved and more observant. We kind of want to, see how the dynamics play out in a situation with people, for example. But, there are a lot of layers to us as a person, and we all have that, and we all wear masks in a way. But I think it's very, it sometimes maybe feels a bit alienating in the sense that you don't feel people fully get you, even though there's a lot, the ocean of your personality has a lot of depth, if you will, right? And it takes a long time for you to feel comfortable to open up to people and for them to also see that that's another element to it. And then there's another thing that I would also add, which is that we're system-based thinkers, And if you look at life, a lot of life is based on systems. So it can be quite frustrating to kind of see how systems can play out. And there's a very strong moral compass in that. So I think a lot of NTJs they're sort of the villainous archetype, but a lot of them will have also probably pretty high moral compass if they're healthy INTJs. And then you look at the world through systems. So there's actually a lot of good parts there, but I feel people have such a villainous archetype in mind where they think of an INTJ, the evil mastermind, and that might be true in some cases, but I think a healthy INTJ would be different about it.
What advice would you give to anyone else who is also your personality type?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now I'm in my mid-30s, right? And when I started to learn a lot more about my type and how I sort of function and navigate through the world, it explained a lot of the problems that I had in my 20s, where I felt, first of all, very lost. So I think a lot of INTJs, you have the tendency to essentially hyper-focus on a lot of things. And in your mind, it feels like it always has to be one path. So you can only choose one career, and you need to completely excel in this career. And this is essentially what you do with a lot of things. But life is very multivariate, so it's much better to generally think about things in a bit more open-minded way. So that's the first piece of advice that I would give, is try to be more open-minded, not just towards ideas that you come across from people, culture, so on and so forth, but also on what you want to do with your life, because it's probably going to change over time anyways. So you don't need to have it all figured out, and you can relax a little bit and trust yourself that you're going to be able to combine things, and that could also be actually a great idea, right?